We pick up on the discussions that we are having with the CEO of Afriforum, Kallie Kriel, about the Expropriation Act. Of course, there's been a number of concerns from certain quarters. I mean, even seeing the President of the United States signing that executive order. Mr. Kriel, we have been speaking about this matter, but there's a lot of confusion, really, when it comes to what exactly is happening. As people who, I would say, are aggrieved, would you take this offer that the President of the US has made?
Yeah, you're welcome to just call me Kallie. It's not Mr. Kriel.
Okay.
No, I'm going to stay here on African soil. We are thankful for recognition that is given to the situation of Afrikaners. But I don't want my grandchildren to say one day, call me hi granddad, or they must call me hello opa. And the only place where that can happen is on African soil, because we see people that move abroad, of course they remain Afrikaners, but many of their children and grandchildren marry into the society where they are, and eventually they are assimilated. That is, if people make that choice, I respect it. We have good communication with many Afrikaners abroad, but we're saying as an organization that is African bound, we want to make sure that we find solutions here. And hopefully this whole debacle would assist in finding local solutions. We are going to the US now to try and save AGOA. Yeah. And what the big problem is now, you're not going to save AGOA by going into denialism, yeah, or trying to blame. This is an old strategy. If a politician does something that has negative consequences, to evade taking responsibility, they now have to find some other scapegoat. And in this regard, it's Afriforum. It's not Afriforum that signed the Expropriation Act. We didn't sign the Bella Act. We didn't get involved in with our foreign policy in international conflicts. It wasn't us. Yeah. So those are the real issues that needs to be addressed.
But also there have been videos, and I've seen some of them being shared by, I think, Americans, of a genocide underway in South Africa. Yeah. As Afriforum, is there a genocide against white people in South Africa?
Our stance has always been, and we've been on record, that we cannot equate what is happening in South Africa with, say, for instance, what happened in Rwanda. But unfortunately, also people that say it's not genocide and want to say it's not a real problem. It's not genocide, but it is a serious violation of human rights. You have people singing "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." You have a member of the mayoral council here in the city of Tshwane saying he wants to moer a boer, saying he wants to see Afrikaner blood. Those are fringe figures. But why? The real problem here is the President Ramaphosa, senior ANC leaders, they're quiet on this. In fact, there is no action by the Human Rights Commission. There's no action by the police or prosecuting authority. Yeah. And what message does that send out? If you see tortures on farms happening, blow torches, drills, using to hurt people, that is serious.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm sure no one should downplay that. But I think...
Sorry, I agree we shouldn't downplay it, but that's why we were quite upset when President Ramaphosa said in New York, there's no such a thing as farm murders. I think that's a...
I think with the farm killings, I think obviously we recognize the role the farmers play, but it cuts across. I mean, even farm workers get killed, not necessarily white farm workers. Yeah. So, and I think it's a criminal matter that I think should be viewed in such way as well. But also moving on to another issue. We saw at the weekend the protests outside the US Embassy. What did you make of it?
Well, of course, that we are not involved in that. We were not involved in that protest. But I think we believe in democracy, so there are various groups taking on this issue. So we welcome the fact if people use their democratic rights. Our route is a different route. We are going to engage the the US government directly. But of course, that protest, I think, also put the spotlight on the situation in the country.
You have sought a meeting with the president, and the president, I think in the latest statements, was that he was not going to be meeting with you. So have you made any follow-up request to meet with the president to deal with this issue? As you speak, time and again, you refer to the president.
Well, the fact is, we have reached out to the president also in the past, and he has made that choice. That choice is not in the interest of the country. That choice places the interests of the ANC above that of the normal people in this country, ordinary people like you and I. And I think this problem is not going to disappear. We have said that we would want to help save AGOA. We would want to help save PEPFAR assistance. This problem is not going to be solved by sending a delegation from government to tell the US this is simply some big misunderstanding. The Americans can read. They have an embassy that's monitoring what is happening in the country. So we need to engage the US with solutions, and we can be part of that solution. The choice is with the president if he's going to make use of that or if he's going to allow the country to suffer.
Are you not worried about the sovereignty of our country, that you are inviting the superpower to really meddle?
No, we don't want the US to come and intervene here, to send a warship or anything of that. The fact is, AGOA, the money from PEPFAR, is the money from the US. So it's not interference with us what they do with their money. We know that that is in danger. So what the best we can do is to try and save that money. They don't have to give it to us, but it's in the interest of our people that we make sure that we adhere to property rights, or respect property rights, that we don't have human rights abuses, that we stay neutral internationally. India is a good example in terms of a country that works in the interest of their own people. India is part of BRICS, which means they have ties with South Africa, they have ties with China, with Russia, but they also have a very strong relationship with the US. Our first priority in this country should be our people. The poverty that we see here, the unemployment, what we see here, and in the interest of our people, don't get involved in international fights.
By our people, who do you mean? Do you mean the Afrikaners, or you mean general South Africans?
No, if the president speaks about our people, we know he refers to black people. If I speak about our people, I refer to all our brothers and sisters in this country from all cultural communities.
But the president, I think, is the president of state, so he probably represents everyone.
No, he said we want to give the land back to our people, and then, of course,
maybe just on the land issue again. What do you think should happen to the land that is not used, or the land that is held up by private individuals, arable, but somehow they are not giving up on it?
Yeah, I think there are different scenarios. Some people buy land for investment, for it to grow. That is within bounds of how investment works. People always say that there might be a building in a city that is abandoned. The owner does not have any interest in that. Of course, that is the kind of expropriation that can go ahead. But then the Act should state clearly, these are the circumstances when it could happen, and not have a clause to say it includes these circumstances, but it's not limited to this. So the problem is not an expropriation act. Every country in the world has an expropriation act. The problem here is that it has a no compensation clause. The only countries that have that is Venezuela and Zimbabwe, and we've seen.
But I think where there's a nil compensation clause, they explain, so under what circumstances there will be nil compensation. You can't trace the owner and things like those.
Yes, and if that was in the Act alone, say these are the circumstances, but now it says including but not limited to. So somebody can think of another reason and go ahead. You then have to go to court, and it takes you 5 years.
So you don't want to go to court because that process takes long. Is that your concern about courts?
No, the problem is the state has resources, taxpayers' money. Now I have land, it is taken away, I don't have access to the land anymore, so I can't make an income out of that land. Now I have to pay legal fees for 5 years. And people would now say, okay, like the expropriation that was tried with Ackerland, government offered 25% of the property value, and you have to say, should I now take 25%, or should I fight it with money I don't have? So this kind of process, you should first finish the court process before expropriation takes place, and that's a problem.
You had a meeting with Minister Mckenzie. What did you agree on?
Well, I think the interesting and what I love so much about discussions with him, he disagrees with us, of course. But unlike other politicians that simply say they lie about what we are saying, he said, well, let me hear what you say. And we are always willing to enter into those discussions. And I think we need more people like Minister Mckenzie that are willing to engage and to find solutions. We don't in the country, there are many differences. And I think we must sometimes agree that we disagree on issues. But there are real common issues of common concern. And we should take on that in terms of Afriforum's projects in rural communities. There are cultural differences between cultural communities, but we say it's in the interest so that we have local economic development. That's why we have cooperation agreements with the Barlong Buseleka, the Amabele community, and a number of others. And that is what we should do, say what is in common interest and let's work together. And I think that is what Minister Mckenzie also seeks. And I think we had a constructive discussion. He actually just heard what people said we say. He now heard what we do say. And I think we have a good relationship without compromising him, that he can never differ with us.
All right. We're moving towards closure now. One of your colleagues in the Solidarity movement, Ernst Roets, has resigned from Solidarity. So is this talking to the divisions in terms of the approach of the recent developments going forward?
No, we are thankful for the role Ernst played. He worked within the movement for 20 years. He has decided to move on. We respect him for that, and we wish him the best. In terms of the visions, I think there is good cooperation between the various parts of the Solidarity movement. Our members are united behind us. Afriforum's 300,000 members, the 600,000 if you take all the membership of all the organizations. So we are confident that we have a good cause, that our constituency is firmly behind us, and that we have a good, we're putting out a hand of friendship, and hopefully the people of this country would take it.
Okay, now closing this, let's close again with President Trump having said some groups are being treated very badly in South Africa, and then there's this refugee status. I just want you on record. Are you encouraging anyone to go? Are you yourself thinking about any of those sorts? Do you hanker the days gone by? I know you said we are not part of what was happening at the US Embassy, but we saw placards really which showed that people perhaps remembered the days gone by, unfortunately, during the apartheid. So just sum that up for me. So where are you as a Kallie and Afriforum?
We most definitely don't long for a past under the National Party government, but we're also not looking forward to a future under a government that does not respect our dignity, that wants to destroy our schools. That is why we are working for the future. We want to find solutions for the future, where everybody's dignity in the country is respected. I see myself as an African with a light complexion. Some of those that make themselves guilty of hate speech against Afrikaners won't agree with me that I'm an African, but that's also their right. But the message is, even if they don't like Afrikaners, fortunately, the last engagement I had with the majority of people in this country are all people that just want a future for their children. But don't dislike us. They must remember tomorrow morning when they wake up, Afrikaners are still going to be here. Tomorrow when I wake up, even the radical elements will still be here. So it's best that we solve the situation so that we create a future where all of our children can have a future here on the southern tip of Africa.
So certainly we're not seeing people heading towards Utah, Minnesota, Texas.
And you can hear my English is not that good. I can only speak this English here, and then I can speak Afrikaans.
No, thank you very much, Kallie. Wow.
Thank you, sir.
That was Kallie Kriel, the CEO of Afriforum, talking about some of the issues relating to the executive order signed by President Trump, and then of course the Expropriation Act that was signed by President Ramaphosa a few weeks ago.